You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, California Jam, Move Well University, the Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, the Chiro Dex app, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Chiro Spark, Chirogram, Chiropractic Wealth Management, 8 Weeks to Wellness, Integrative Freedom, and Element Mattresses. Let's hustle. Hey, Chiro Hustlers. I am Jim Chester, your host of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Just to give you the 411, today's episode is brought to you by Chiro Sushi. And just to let you guys know, I am a samurai. I am a mentor for the Chiro Sushi group, and Scott Little is now one of the newest members of the Samurai group. So if you guys want to learn more about integrating yourselves into technology world and becoming like Dr. Scott's going to talk about, becoming a media company before you think of yourself as a chiropractor, we're going to talk all about all kinds of cool stuff. And Dwayne Hoskins just joined us. He is also one of the newest Samurai members. So the Samurai are taking over, and we are delivering the truth of media and marketing and money mindset and anything that you have that has to do with chiropractic health when it comes to media promotions. Join the Samurai and get to the Chiro Sushi Summit in June. I believe it's the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th of June, but it's in Las Vegas at the Westgate. So with that being said, this episode is brought to you by Chiro Sushi, but Dr. Scott Little is out in Woodland Park, and we're going to talk all about his simple chiropractic style, and we're going to talk all about restarting from scratch, coming out from Indiana and coming to Colorado. Is a lifetime dream of yours to be out here in Colorado, and let's just talk a little bit about that. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. This is a real honor, Jim. I spend a lot of time on Chiro Hustle Facebook Live casts, and I'm honored to be on this one.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your transition from Indiana to Colorado and what that looks like right now for you.
Okay. Well, this is my third transition. So I started my first practice in June of 95, right after I graduated from Logan. And then 4 years later, moved to Indiana, and then spent 18 years in Indiana, and then fulfilled a basically 27-year dream of practicing in Woodland Park, Colorado, starting at the end of August. So literally, is that 5 months ago or so yesterday? Is it 5 or 6? Anyway, I think it's 5. But starting a practice is completely different in 2017 or now 2018 than it was in 95. In 95, we all got substations. We went to Sam's Club. If you didn't have a substation, you did posture screenings, and you stood there and every Saturday and did your screenings until they kicked us out of Sam's Club. And then you did your screenings at health fairs or business expos or anywhere that you could with your substation. In 99, I joined BNI and got a lot of growth from BNI, but then I also did killer ads where you took a sheet of goldenrod paper and put your picture in the middle and a catchy headline and offered a $27 special. And it worked great, but it was about $3,000 every time you ran the ads and then put them in the paper. And in 2017 and 18, it's 100% different. It's all social media, and it's by and large free. I have not spent more than $30 in boosting posts since I've been here, and I'm not so sure I've gotten anything good from the $30 that I've spent on boosting posts. But I'm very, very active on social media. In this community, we've got 5 or 6 different community groups on Facebook. And the majority of my patients have come from there. Nobody picks up the phone in 2017 and says, I'd like to make an appointment. They message you on Facebook, and they may message you on Facebook at 5 o'clock in the morning. And if you respond, you win. The thing that I have noticed so much, and the reason I feel like I'm really doing well based on your tutelage and Tristan's and Nicole's, et cetera, is that when somebody in the Woodland Park community page says, I need a chiropractor, my tribe, if you will, rallies. Dr. Scott's the man. Dr. Scott's the man. Call Dr. Scott. Now, some people will say, no, it's Dr. Jones. It's Dr. Smith. But I'll tell you what I do that I've gotten from you guys is every time one of my patients says something about me, thank you, Mary. That was very kind. Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate that every single time. And none of the other chiropractors do that. They see somebody wanting to, needing a chiropractor. So what do? They put a link to their website. Are you serious? That's social. I'm so busy taking care of my patients. I have no time, but I will at least give you a link to my website so that you can. Oh, it's awful. So I probably do spend a lot of time on social media, but it's not looking at puppy videos or following politics. It's trying to engage with my community, and we have 6,500 residents in Woodland Park and 6,500 members of the Woodland Park community page, and 11,000 or so in our county. So anyway, I could go on forever, and you probably have another question.
No. It's really cool that you're sharing these strategies with people, because effectively, how long have you been practicing?
I'm entering my 23rd year.
Okay, so 23rd year, but you're treating this like an upstart. So
correct.
You're coming into the Colorado marketplace as an upstart chiropractor.
That's exactly right. And I started participating in the Woodland Park community page a month or two, because they were very strict on you need to be a resident. So I was allowed in, but I really didn't want to start posting things, and because I didn't want to get kicked out, didn't want to come to town with a black eye. So I waited until a month or so before I got here to really start participating.
So let's talk a little bit about that, how you started with the concept of keeping a simple practice. And I know that's one of the cool things that you do. And I also want to touch on the video that you send to new practice members. And I think we'll start with those two things. And why a simple practice? And, how have you learned to make that successful?
Years ago, I had the opportunity to learn a specific technique that I felt like all I needed were my hands and this analysis, and I really didn't need X-ray, and I didn't really need any sort of other device. And really, all I wanted to do was to practice on a portable table with the specific technique. And I'd actually been to a Joe Felicia seminar. Joe Felicia is a relatively famous chiropractor. Used to run Renaissance with Dr. Riekman, and was a vice president at Sherman College. And he was a master. And I went to a seminar of his once, and when he was practicing in Rhode Island, he literally practiced in a 300 square foot room, just a big open room with chairs all around, saw 300 patients a day. And the patients were trained, if the phone rang, they would answer the phone. Dr. Felicia's office, patient speaking. Yes, he's here until 6 o'clock, then he takes a break, and then he comes back after dinner and sees patients till 9 o'clock. And that's what he did. He ran 3 shifts, and he was amazing. But I got a vision for what could be of a very, very simple practice then. And that was always my dream, and didn't do it. I followed the principles of the 90s and so forth, and had a rehab clinic and 3,500 square feet and X-ray and laser and blah, 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 all based on the idea that we had gone from insurance paying for about 50 or 60 adjustments a year down to 12, but you could still make a lot of money in therapeutic exercises and all. And quite honestly, I thought it was all a bunch of BS. I loaded up my office with a Schwinn Airdyne bike and roller tables and all these things. It was all driven by a concept of trying to get as many therapeutic exercises and other billing codes. And I did that for about a year, and I thought, this is not me. If Jim Chester came into my office, I'd lay him on the table and I would adjust him. I had an opportunity to potentially go to work as a lead doctor in an office. And the first thing they did was say, okay, doc, adjust me. So I adjust. Oh, that's great. And then they took me back to their exam room and showed me their digital X-ray and their EMG and their foot levelers and all this equipment. And I'm not bad-mouthing all of it, but the idea was we never adjust on the first day. We do this, and then we have this program that analyzes the insurance. And so you'll know exactly how many massages to recommend and exactly how many therapeutic exercises. I'm like, this is crap. You just lay down on the table and I adjusted. You got off and said, this is great. But these housewives in this really ritzy part of town that all have great insurance, well, it just wasn't me. And I thought, if I'm not going to put Jim Chester on a Schwinn Airdyne bike for 8 minutes so that I can bill a code, then this is ridiculous. And I got rid of all that stuff. I moved from my 3,500 square foot office into a 500 square foot office. A couple of years later, moved into a 400 square foot office. And in that office, it was in a very odd place for a chiropractic practice, quite frankly. It was in the lower level of this huge apartment complex clubhouse. As an aside, it happened to be a converted barn. John Mellencamp recorded Rain on the Scarecrow in right where my office was. But I paid $475 for that office, including utilities and internet access. There's a huge common area that I shared with an accountant and an osteopath, and so I wasn't really paying for that. The bathrooms were included, the kitchenette was included. So I had this big 400 square foot office, and I shared that office with other chiropractors. I think my net there was $175 a month rent, utilities, and internet access. And so now I'm in Woodland Park, Colorado. I'm practicing right in the center, the main intersection of town, in an old bank building that's been set up as a work co-share. I literally paid in November, I practiced 11 days and paid $135. In December, I practiced like 13 days or so and paid $165. If I want to pay $220 a month, I get everything for that 7 days a week. That's rent, utilities, internet access, coffee, toilet paper, and use of the copying machine and fax machine for $220. I don't need the office 7 days a week, so I'm paying about $160 to $180 or so a month. That plus my cell phone bill is all I've got. And that doesn't mean that everybody would like to practice that way. I'm just saying that you can. And if you're a student graduating $150,000, $200,000 in debt, this concept of going to a strip center and getting a big sign that sets you back $5,000 and signing a $2,500 a month lease plus another $1,000 in CAM fees and $1,000 for your digital x-ray and just all this stuff that you think that you have to have in order to be successful. In this practice, I'm really trying to demonstrate that it can be done on an absolute shoestring budget. I do all of my documentation on an iPad Pro with an iPencil and a $7.99 app. And that's with complete respect to Nicole and Dwayne, who have much better systems than I do. But this system is working incredibly well for me. And it literally set me back $8 plus a $4 scanning program. In fact, I don't even need a laptop other than to watch you and Nicole and Tristan and your crew in my office, because everything I do is on my iPad. All my billing, my documentation. I don't use it, but I have a posture analyzing app right there on my iPad that I could use. Everything I have for my practice fits in this backpack that includes my toggle headpiece, a roll of face paper. Everything I need for my practice fits in this backpack, and then I have a portable Lloyd table. Again, not saying everybody wants to practice this way, but you can, and that's the biggest deal. Am I always going to practice this way? I predict so, because I've been on the other side and have evolved or devolved, or what I said in my podcast the other, maybe de-evolved, to throw out a shout to the DE folks. But that's what has evolved into this simple model of chiropractic. And there's a lot more to it than that, but I'm just saying that you don't have to go out and have all the nicest equipment that you had in chiropractic college. They wouldn't have that except it was free. And so anyway.
So to better say this to people is you've learned how to become a lean system. You're a lean system that you practice the way that you want to and what you would expect if you came into a chiropractic office.
Well, I like that. Dwayne and I are and several others are members of the membership style of chiropractic practice. And sometimes when you use the term membership, people immediately put up a barrier and say, that's illegal in my state. You hear that a lot in Florida and Kentucky and New Jersey and so forth.
New York.
Yeah, and what is illegal and what should have been illegal was a concept that was going around in the late '90s, whereby you would charge somebody a monthly fee and then just bill the heck out of their insurance for anything else that you could get. And that's deemed practicing insurance without a license. And I get that. When you practice from a purely non-medical standpoint, a non-medically necessary, non-therapeutic standpoint, then there's no reason why you can't charge a monthly fee for a set amount of care. We used to say unlimited. A lot of states didn't like that term. And I understand that. If a patient calls me on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock and I say, well, I'm not coming in for it. Of course, if a patient calls me on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, it happens so rarely because my patients respect me, but I would do this. I have all my stuff in my living room. So you can come over to my house if you're an established patient. We have that relationship. Now, if you're a new patient, I'm not going to do that. But if you're an established practice member, I'm going to go out of my way to take care of you because I have open hours just 2 days a week plus 2 hours on Saturday. And people generally respect that. But, years ago, I got that phone call from the main insurance company that said, doctor, your credentialing has expired and you need to fill out this paperwork so that we can refer our people to you. But you need to know that we no longer pay for exams, x-rays, physical therapy done by a chiropractor, and the allowable charge on the 12 manipulations that we allow is $15 or $25, but all of our people have a $30 or $40 copay. Well, I refuse to ever call what I do a manipulation. So that was reason to balk. I said, you know what? You don't ever pay a chiropractor anything, do you? Well, doc, that $15 goes to their deductible. And I'm like, did you just say that with a straight face? Did you literally just tell me that $15 will go towards their $3,500 deductible? And I hung up. And I didn't do it right, probably. I just said, I'll never take another dime of insurance. I'm a non-medically necessary practice, and I never wrote letters or anything. I just stopped doing it, and I eventually just got taken off the list. But if your primary intent is to improve quality of life and function, to promote optimal health, to prevent further damage, disease, or you're providing care beyond your ability to objectively show improvement, you're non-medically necessary. And I just said, well, that's 100% of my intention always. And so therefore, in all of my procedures and all of my communication, I am a non-medically necessary, non-therapeutic chiropractor. And so there you have it. There you are.
Well, I love how you've practiced on your terms. And I think that so many times the chiropractor doesn't realize that they have the leverage because they are the caregiver and they are the business owner. And so many times I think that the chiropractor thinks, like you said, they need to have this immaculate office space, which isn't bad. And like you said, we're not going to throw stones at people, but when you can lean it down, let's talk a little bit about how you've generated success for yourself now and how you feel like your practice is going after 5 months.
Okay. So this is a model of practice that is a little slow in the beginning. And I was asked today by a young chiropractor, how do you make $100,000 in this model? And I said, well, here's the deal. After 5 months, and I'll just be very transparent. I charge $90 a month for an individual, $130 for a couple, and $150 for a family. At this point, I have broken the $3,000 a month rate in memberships, and then I'm $50 a session for just per session. And I'm the most expensive chiropractor on a per visit basis in Woodland Park. And I tell people that because I want the membership thing to be so smart. Well, why wouldn't I just join that? Well, I couldn't agree more. So I'm at about 3. By the end, this is Wednesday. By tomorrow, I expect to be at 3,400. And by the end of the year, my goal is to have 100 no less than 100 members at averaging about $130 a month. And so that's 13,000 income before you hit the $50 visits like new patients and so forth, with an overhead of $200. And so that's the thing. Net is everything. We have a doctor in our membership practice who practices in Eastern Tennessee. And after 5 years in this model, he broke the 20,000 a month deal. And so he's got enough practice members to collect $20,000 a month. And he, like myself, is in a very small office, 500 square feet or so. So his overhead is extremely low. And the model is just completely, relatively stress-free. And you alluded to a video that I have. Educate. Doctor means teacher, and our primary objective is to educate our community. And a lot of doctors are very, very successful about having their Tuesday night lay lectures or something like that, and getting spouses to come and bringing guests. And I was never all that successful at that, but education was very, very important. So I created a little 19-minute video of my orientation. It's a keynote presentation that is kind of animated, and I've done the voiceover, and I put it on the front page of my website, and every single new patient watches it prior to coming in. One of the guys in the membership practice asked me, well, how do you know that they watched it? And I asked them. I said, tell me a couple of things. But see, I don't have to ask them, because usually they come in and say, I had no idea you took care of kids. I loved the part about subluxation. I had no idea that you were more about the brain than you were the back. They'll come in and just say, hey, I want to do that membership thing. Or I'll just, if it doesn't come up that way, I'll ask, what are a couple things that you got out of the video? And you know what? And I give a $50 credit towards their first visit. That's the big deal. When you call me, now the first visit is $100. That includes your exam and our consultation and your first adjustment, but nobody pays that, Jim, because everybody goes to my website and watches a 19-minute video that I give a $50 credit for. There was question in the state of Colorado. I don't want to ever break the law. You can't discount your services, but you can give a credit. You can make a credit available to anybody towards their first visit. So technically I charge $100, because $50 for watching the video and $50 that you pay me. But you know what? Everyone watches that video, and more times than not, they say, hey, I want to do that membership thing. That just makes perfect sense. Why don't other chiropractors do that? And that's a good question. I have an answer for it.
Well, that's really cool. I like the fact that you take care of your community with such a simple style of practice, and you practice on your terms once again. Let's talk a little bit about, you alluded to taking care of kids. Why is it so important for chiropractors to focus on the little ones, the tots, and the growing children?
Because they're sicker than hell. It's just awful to see these children and the amount of vaccines that they're on, the sugar that they eat, the just pure crap that they eat, and the cell phones, and just it's just, this generation is going to be a heck of a lot sicker than us, and we're a heck of a lot sicker than our parents and grandparents. I mean, it's just awful. And so I think it's very important to communicate the need for chiropractic care in children. Most of us don't make it out of the birth canal without some significant neurologic trauma to our upper cervical spine. The upper cervical spine has a direct influence on the heart, the liver, the lungs, the GI system, the immune system, the cerebellum, which controls all balance and coordination. Now we know of not only movement, but mood and attitude. Do we have any kids that have bad moods and bad attitudes? Maybe it's an upper cervical subluxation, not only just affecting the brainstem, but screwing up their cerebellum. And then, of course, the limbic system that handles all of our reaction to stress and our hormones and everything. The reality is that the question is, are kids under stress? And absolutely they are. When you define chemical stress and physical stress and mental and emotional stress, did we have all this conversation about bullies? I grew up, not only did I grow up with the last name Little, I currently have the last name Little, and I'm 5'5", and I was always the shortest person in the class, and I'm still dealing with low self-esteem issues and recovery and so forth, because I heard every single day of my life from kindergarten to yesterday, I know why your last name's Little. And bullying is a really big deal now, and just the mental, physical, chemical stressors that people are going through. Took in a new family just this last week. Have two little girls about the same age. One's blonde, one's brunette. The brunette has terrible health issues, respiratory issues, asthma, terrible immune system, had a horrible birth, had a reaction to her vaccines. The blonde, after the sister had her experience, the blonde didn't have vaccines and had a much better birth. And the two children are night and day. And so you tell the story and the parents just light bulb goes on, of course. And for heaven's sakes, in my model, I'm $90 a month for an individual, $130 for a couple, and $150 for a family. And if somebody comes in and says, "Well, I'm just going to pay for the couple," I'll sit back and I'll literally say, "Where have I failed you? If you're not willing to pay $20 a month for your children to be under care, what on earth have I?" And it never happens.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, California Jam, Move Well University, the Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, the Chiro Dex app, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Chiro Spark, Chirogram, Chiropractic Wealth Management, 8 Weeks to Wellness, Integrative Freedom, and Element Mattresses. Let's hustle.
That's the real story of saving lives with chiropractic and giving people their full potential to live a happy family. And I think that's a part that I really resonate with Sigafus is, or maybe it was Gold. I think they both said it, but why would you bring yourself to the clinic and leave your children and the rest of your family at home to be sick?
Well, absolutely.
And I think that resonates with me big time. And I think that it's really cool that somebody told me a couple months or maybe a year ago, but if you don't take care of kids at your clinic, you suck.
Let me say something about this. I am thrilled with the number of kids that I have in my practice currently. And it's the majority of my practice right now are 30-something-year-old mothers and their husbands and their children. That was not my practice in Indiana. For 18 years, I took care of very few kids. Karen and I don't have kids. That's a topic for another day. I didn't really attract a huge following of kids, and I certainly didn't market for it. And I was satisfied if you came in as an individual or a couple and left your kids at home. That's not really the case now, and I couldn't agree with you more. If you're not taking care of kids, you may suck, and I may have sucked in Indiana. But the reality is that when I was in Indiana, I had a fair number of practice members, and the majority of them were paying me $90 a month, occasionally $130. Now everybody's by and large paying me $150, and that when you say you charge $90 a month for weekly care. And that's what I do. I say the best way of using chiropractic is to go weekly. I charge a low monthly fee for you to come in weekly. And all the chiropractors in town don't like that because they say if a person comes in weekly, they're paying $22 an adjustment. I'm like, yeah, and if they come in twice a week, which I'll see them if they need, then they're paying like $11 an adjustment. But sometimes they come in once a month and they pay $90 an adjustment. Sometimes they come in every week and they pay $45. What do you charge, Doc? $42. Oh, really? So I just made more on you. And it all just averages out. I tell people I want you to come in every week. More so if I find it in your best interest, and that's at no additional fee. But I believe that weekly is the best way to use chiropractors do that all the time, but then they look at insurance and say, well, your policy covers 12 visits, so I recommend monthly care, which I think is a tremendous load of crap. You better be making the same recommendation that you would make for your daughter or your wife. So I think, again, I have a ridiculously low overhead. I can afford to offer that great fee. And, if you don't want to do that, then it's $50 a session. And I'm the most expensive chiropractor in town, and I will not file your insurance or do anything like that.
Well, I remember back when you were about to move to Colorado, you reached out to me and you had some uncertainty on like the trajectory of what you were going to do and where you might be. And I was like, hey, Scott, if you need a place to live, I'm traveling. You can stay at my place. You get 2 weeks at my place. I'm out of my place. But it seemed like you landed on your feet all right. But I even opened my door to you and said, hey, I want to be your friend. I want to support you. I want to help you. If there's anything that I can share with you as far as doing any type of media promotions, I'm your guy for that. And just like Kat Sarah says there, love your authenticity. Thank you for sharing your story, and you're very transparent with your message. And Dwayne Hoskins, he says monthly care is just to remind you where to go when monthly care fails you, and that's from Dr. Papa Joe Denorfio.
Good.
And I'm just going to take this quick moment before we transition to the last couple questions. But I'm going to throw a shout out to Dwayne for being active on our Facebook Live today. And thank you, Dwayne, for supporting what Scott and I do. And thank you for being such an awesome chiropractor for the chiropractic community out there and supporting so many different facets of the chiropractic message. Thank you, Kat, for always supporting what we do on these live streams. She's out there in Salt Lake City, Utah, good friends with Chris Zano and Wendy Zano, good advocates for the message of chiropractic. Ari Anthony has been on. Nick Spano, he says, just using your hands to practice, crazy. Nicole Callie with Chiro Social Tech that I interviewed earlier today had a nice comment, and that she says she's going to watch the replay. And I just wanted to send a message out there that anybody that does watch the replay on this live stream, if you do have questions for Scott or I about anything with the membership model practice or Facebook ads or Facebook marketing or anything that does with Facebook promotions or Instagram promotions or live streams or podcasting, reach out to me with your personal message or your private message, whatever that PM thing means. And also with Dr. Scott, if you guys have any questions about how he became an upstart after 23 years of practice, put those into the comments section as well, and he'll get back to you on that content. And I know that you've been, like you said earlier, you've been following what Nicole Cowley does with Chiro Social Tech and what Kristen Schaub does with Chiro Sushi and what Jim Chester does with Chiro Hustle. Tell us a few creative things that you've done on a zero budget for marketing and how that has helped you.
Okay. I think the number one thing that I do is the video that I put on my website. And by telling people that they can save $50 on their first session by watching that video, it's amazing how frequently I get a text message in 20 minutes later saying, I'm in. When can I start? And so that, I believe, has been the best thing that I've done. Now, as far as social media goes and so forth, it's having a presence and being active and being social in social media. I think you say that better than anybody else. But what I will see is I have a tribe of patients who come to my rally anytime someone in the Woodland Park community page says, who's a good chiropractor? My people are like, I go to Dr. Scott. I go to Dr. Scott. I go to Dr. Scott. Now, sometimes people will say, I go to Dr. Smith or I go to Dr. Jones. But here's the distinction. Every single time that my tribe member says, I go to Dr. Scott, thank you, John. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that. The other chiropractors stick a link to their website. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Why?
That's stale. That's so stale.
Yeah. How self-absorbed are you? And another chiropractor I talked to, maybe a little bit older, says, I don't have time to do social media and learn how to do that. You're knocking it dead in social media. So what I do, I probably don't spend more than $30 a month boosting posts, but I write blog posts and I just post it on my page, my professional page, and then there's about 4 or 5 different Woodland Park community pages and business networking groups and things of like that. And I always just post them on there. So people will say, I Cap'n this morning. Well, where did you see it? I've been following you on Facebook since you started posting back in the summertime. And all my blog posts have my video at the end, and so people will watch that. And it just, I'm not the guy that could ever hire a service to put out their own generic blogs. Years ago, and well, even today, there are great website services that create a generic chiropractic website complete with all this information. We'll send out blog posts and email. If it's not coming from me, it's not going. It's not part of my brand. And so, I'll sit there and I'll write an article and I'll get a good picture and I'll put it out there and I'll post it to about 7 or 8 different places, and I get people saying, I read your stuff all the time on Facebook. I don't necessarily get a lot of feedback and look at the numbers and say, man, gosh, 54 people have read that and shared it with the entire universe. But it seems to be working, and I spend nothing. There's so much more that I would like to do that I've learned from you. I'm really wanting to incorporate more video. I really want to, my wife and I are starting a podcast that's more on a wellness lifestyle. It'll certainly include chiropractic, and I'll certainly promote our style of chiropractic, of finding a chiropractor in your community that provides weekly care for a low monthly fee. But it'll also incorporate exercise and nutrition and personal development and those types of things. And that, when I record that, I will absolutely post that in the community pages. It's just a matter of being a real person. I will say this also, the best $200 I ever spent were these freaking glasses, my Harry Potter and Where's Waldo glasses. People come up to me at the grocery store and everywhere. Oh, you're Dr. Little. You're the chiropractor. I said, the glasses gave it away. Well, yeah. And so I have my big Harry Potter glasses, and I'll hear little kids at church, Mommy, there's Harry Potter. Could you hear that? Mommy, there's Harry Potter. So I know that I'm known as the Harry Potter chiropractor in the community. But yeah, it's just a matter of being very real. Our model of practice is predicated on a very low overhead, a very affordable fee for a family to pay to come in on a weekly basis, and this is key, Jim. A very high commitment to the highest level of communication skills. If you're still communicating chiropractic as a bone out of place, putting pressure on the nerve, that's pretty antiquated. And I really encourage chiropractors to take it up, study under Dan Sullivan, study under Dan Murphy, learn why it is that the upper cervical spine specifically has such a direct effect on the heart, the liver, the lungs, the GI, the immune system, balance and coordination of mood and attitudes, and the entire stress system of the body. Master that, be able to communicate that. If you don't know how to adjust, reach out to a Dr. Nick Spano or reach out to a lot of our chiropractic colleges, Sherman excluded, Life excluded, are really not putting out great adjusters who can communicate chiropractic. Life West, I learned so much from the students at Life West. They do a phenomenal job of producing excellent communicators. Now he's now a practicing chiropractor in Florida, but go to YouTube and watch Josh Silver videos from when he was a student at Life West, and specifically the one about him going over the poster that Dan Murphy created about the effects of an upper cervical subluxation, how an adjustment has a global effect. Master what he says in 7 minutes, and then watch it 34 more times, because I used to do cover work in Indiana, and I would go into these young doctors and be told that, well, we just manually manipulate, and then I rub out trigger points for about 14 minutes. And that's the secret to my success, and why people come in every month is because I care enough to spend the time to do all the soft tissue work. I said, well, okay, you're on maternity leave for the next 3 months, and I'm here 2 days a week. You're usually here 5 days a week. You see 20 patients a day. I can see 60. So we're not gonna be doing trigger point therapy. We're gonna be adjusting. Oh, I don't think they're gonna like that. I'm like, well, they're gonna deal with it, because if we don't, you don't have a practice to come home to in 3 months. And all the patients stayed and loved it, and they got on the table, they got their atlas checked, their sacrum checked, and went home, and everybody did just fine. But the schools just aren't producing chiropractors that can communicate subluxation and adjustment and the neurologic effects of a subluxation and the neurologic effects of starting a podcast to try to leverage as a tool to help people without being on the phone all day. But you've got to be able to adjust the atlas. You've got to be able to know. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the only bone that you adjust, but you've got to know that person is clear, and that you've just made a positive impact on brain function, and a better brain equals a better life. And that's the purpose of a chiropractic adjustment. You are not a musculoskeletal therapist. In the state of Missouri, they just changed the Missouri State Chiropractic Association's name to the Missouri State Chiropractic Physicians Association. And I am not a chiropractic physician. I am not a musculoskeletal specialist. I am a doctor who eliminates stress and the effects of living in a stress-filled fallen world on the nervous system. And that is totally different than in joint manipulation to the musculoskeletal system. At least put neuromusculoskeletal system in there. But, I even looked up physician, and a physician is a person licensed to practice medicine. I am not licensed to practice medicine, and chiropractic is much, much more than just a treatment of a stuck segment, putting pressure on a nerve. And if you graduated from chiropractic college without the ability to communicate that, you are in the same camp that I was graduating from Logan in 1995. I'm not completely dissing my alma mater, but I didn't learn how to communicate chiropractic, and I didn't learn the confidence of adjusting at Logan College. I am very grateful for Logan Basic Technique, but we were forbidden but we would get kicked out of school if we even talked about adjusting the atlas, and more than as if it was any more important than T8 or T12 or any other bone in the body. And what I tell people is, from a neurologic standpoint and a life standpoint, the upper cervical spine is supreme. From a biomechanical standpoint, I really appreciate the work that I learned in Logan Basic at Logan College. Got to have a level foundation, but if there's any one place to choose, it's the upper cervical spine. And if you graduated from college without the ability to communicate that, then study Dan Sullivan and study other people to get that understanding, so that you understand when you toggle an atlas or you adjust an atlas, that you have the potential of just changing that person's world.
Well, I have to go get my atlas checked. So I have an appointment out here with Dr. Nick Seacrest out at his clinic here. I'm actually running behind. So I know you have an option that you wanted to share with our audience, that if they're interested in coming out and learning how to do some fly fishing.
Well, we will make that very brief. But in moving out here to chiropractic, I don't want to start a big coaching practice and so forth. But Karen and I have been through a lot of crap in life, and we, I think, have a lot to offer. In a ministry called Celebrate Recovery, they say God doesn't waste any hurts, and we've had a lot of hurts, and we've overcome them. And I think that allows us to help other people. And so one of the things that we want to do is just to open up either our home or someplace nearby to allow chiropractors to come out for a day or two, and let's go hiking in the forest, and I'll teach them to fly fish. And the whole time we'll be talking some tick and life, and maybe create some strategies for taking somebody from where they're at to maybe making some improvements. So moved here to Colorado with the intentions of becoming a fly fishing guide or outfitter for the chiropractic profession, and just helping people with some life issues. Maybe it's you want some ideas on how to start a membership or simple style of practice. And so just give me a call. And I did just start a podcast called The Simple Chiropractor Podcast, and I have a website, simplechiropractor.com, and would love to just communicate in any way I can. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being so full of energy and information for everybody that watched in today. I want to send a special shout out to Tim Langley for being the moderator for that membership site and the membership model practice for all the chiropractors out there, helping them with success. And let's see what the last comment.
Can I also say that I wouldn't be here without Tim Langley? And I just wanted to say that. Forgive me for interrupting.
No, no, no. And then we'll share Dwayne's comment. Scott Little's Chiropractic Retreat Center. Get your atlas and life back to balance. And Dwayne is such an awesome guy. Thank you for being such an advocate for both of us and a helpful person for the chiropractic profession and just getting people on the right path, Dwayne. But we'll close out saying thank you to Chiro Sushi for sponsoring this episode of the Chiro Hustle live stream. I think this is an afternoon edition, which it is. And thank you, Dr. Scott Little, for being so transparent and honest about your ambition of being a simple, straight chiropractor and delivering people the goods and taking care of full families and understanding that it's more than just a bone out of place, putting pressure on the nerve. It's more of it's a lifestyle choice, and it gives people their mobility and their functionality back. And I love the way that you approach it. I love the way that you take care of your community. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, to share your message with the chiropractors out there watching. And like I said before, if you guys are watching this on replay, if you have any questions for Scott or I, please post those in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you, because always be social on social. And love and appreciate every single one of you. And peace out, Scott.
Thanks, Jim.
See you, man.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.